Hey, my name's Jazzy McCauley, and I want to really encourage you to take time out of your schedule and watch Artistic Expressions. I mean, they're going to give you all the information you need to know about the art scene here in Greater Hartford, in Connecticut, in fact, in New England. I'm sure they're going to have some guests from around the country, and maybe even some international guests. So check it out on your local TV station, Artistic Expressions, with George, my man, Milner.
Good afternoon, and welcome to Artistic Expressions. I'm your host, Michelle Thomas. This is our season 2. We're so excited here at Artistic Expressions. For our first episode of 2015, our guest is local photographer Maurice Robertson, and we shall talk with him and find out his vast history in Hartford. So sit back and enjoy the show.
Hold your head as high as you can, high enough to see who you are, little man. Life sometimes is cold and cruel, maybe no one else will tell you, so remember that you are black gold, black gold. You are black gold.
Welcome back to Artistic Expressions with your host, Michelle Thomas. And with me is Maurice.
Thank you. Greater New Year to you, Michelle. Thank you so much for including me in this show opportunity.
Yes, blessings, please. I'm honored to have you on the show.
All right, okay.
I'm a big fan of your work. Mm-hmm. You've been doing it forever.
Well, I acquired an Instamatic camera when I got out of college in the late 70s. And finally, in 1983, I got a real camera. And, and I've always had this tentativeness about new technology, and so I bought this new Fujica 35mm, sat in the box for about 3 or 4 months, and it said, Dodo, go on out and plunge in, you know, so I pulled it out, and since 83 is when I really started getting very serious about it. And I'm from the school of trial and error, really. 40,000 rolls of film later, and then finally in 2010 I was blessed with the City of Hartford Art Grant. I bought new digital cameras. I have a really small, sophisticated camera. I call it my Ninja camera.
Yes.
A lot of people don't realize it's a 25 to 300mm lens built into it.
Wow. And
then I have a Canon D50 with a variety of lenses, that I use for, the more professional things. I mean, the other camera does well with file sizes and all that. And so, basically self-taught, but, learned from area mentors. Riley Johnson comes to mind, and a few other people who may be unfamiliar to folk, but are incredible in sharing their time. Bobby Thiesfield and folks of that nature.
Now, do you find in the photography world, photographers are united, or are they like kind of loners on their own?
I find both, really. I mean, Riley was in business, and of course, older gentleman. He's still shooting. He's probably closing in on 80. When I got out of college, he had a store on Albany Avenue.
Okay.
And he also, I believe, had a location at the Civic Center when it opened. And he's always been just very witty and sharing. So, a few things with Riley. Bobby Thiesfield, again, a professional photographer, and it just really depends. I mean, I don't talk to people who don't want to talk to me.
Right.
So
you're open.
Right. So as far as your question, there's folks that are closed that I probably couldn't get next to, but it's all good. It's really about your own initiative and imagination anyway, whatever your art form. And so you find a way, and for me it was school of trial and error, just going out and shooting, reading, always going to gallery shows, to see other folks' work. I'm immersed in music. I do jazz radio, and I come from a family, we're from the West Indies, but my father loved jazz and he loved all types of music, so I think that's part of why I got into documenting concerts, and he's the reason I even got into photography. Not so much he was a professional photographer, but he was always documenting all the family events. So he's a very pragmatic photographer. I took it to another level, obviously.
Right.
But the love of music and jazz came as a result of him having it in the household. As young people, me and my brother, not understanding it, but it was played.
Right.
Along with calypso and reggae. We're from the West States, from
so
Jamaica.
yeah, gotta have some of that.
You know, but he also liked Motown, and he loved R&B. We had, you know, Archie Bell and the Drells going on, and Cliff Nobles and the Horse, and as well as Motown stuff and movie soundtracks.
Right.
But to cut to the chase, I think that's where the seed was planted as far as the love for jazz, and of course, just seeing what a camera is.
When you started first taking photographs, what was your subject matter? Was it anything you can capture?
Pretty much music.
Really, always?
Yeah, and nature.
Yeah.
I've had some stints of professional work. I've never really been a full-blown professional working photographer. I've always had a day job and photography. You know, when I could get paying work, it was generally like shooting events. I've gotten some CD cover work with musicians over the last several decades, and or like simple model shoots, portrait shoots.
Yes.
You know, actors, actresses need headshots, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I never really had a full working studio or, you know, fully working in the business of photography on that end, but always staying in it creatively.
Right.
But music has been the thread as far as what I shoot in nature. And when I travel abroad, I've been blessed with being able to get outside of the country on occasions. My last trip was to the Netherlands. I went to what's called the North Sea Jazz Festival in 2005 and 2006. And that is an overwhelming festival. You have 3 evenings of music. And they're very kind to the uncredentialed photographer, meaning you can snake your way down in front and you don't have that pass.
Right.
You have as much latitude as the credentialed photographer.
Very nice, right.
And that festival is not just limited to jazz. I mean, you see all the greats, old and new, in that festival, from the folks that were playing with Art Blakey and Benny Golson to new names. And not only that, rock acts. I saw Jeff Beck there.
Yeah.
Blues acts. I saw Buddy Guy. I saw Solomon Burke. They have a great respect for the tradition. Folks that have been put on the shelf here in the U.S. Case in point, Solomon Burke had the whole Coliseum rocking.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about the festival, it's all indoors. They have these big convention centers, so you follow the map and the times, and you're snaking your way through these hallways, through these various size rooms, you know, auditorium spaces, smaller venues, huger venues. And as I stated, I saw a lot of jazz greats, but I was able to see Tracy Chapman. I even saw Kanye West there. Okay.
Kind of easy.
And you know, if you buy the festival pass, that's the way to go, because I mean, you know what Kanye West would cost here by himself.
Right.
Then in 2005 and 2006, it was $200 US and worth every cent.
I'm sure.
Because it entitled you to 90% of what was going on. And this festival would start in the evening, 6 p.m. till about 1, and on Sundays a little earlier and end a little earlier.
Right, right.
But you were afforded the opportunity to see at least, you had like 9-10 choices an hour. So it was crazy fun. I was like a kid in a candy shop. And the thing about that festival, don't go with anybody that's tired. I will meet you in the lobby at the end of the festival. I mean, you can sit in
stamina.
one, if you can sit in one venue and watch that rotation, which would be great, you know, but you look at that menu and it's like, I can see Tracy Chapman, I can see Kanye, to Yusef Lateef, to Candy Dolfer, to Omar Sosa. So I was nuts. Yeah. And it gave me opportunities to add to my portfolio.
Now, do you find that having the camera is even a greater access pass?
Well, yes and no. It depends on that festival. Yeah, it was cool.
Right.
Now there have been places where you have to be credentialed, so that's where the little ninja camera comes in. You know, or you know, you learn how to body pack stuff. So I've had adventures. I have been walked out of venues.
I was going to ask, have you been like escorted?
Yes,
kindly escorted out?
It has happened. It's
Still clicking while you're moving?
You know, it's been embarrassing, but you live and you learn. You know, it's part of the rush, I guess.
Right,
you know,
right.
Being caught doing something you're not supposed to be
Do
doing.
you have any images in your head of shots that you have taken in that capacity?
Yes, I saw Prince at
Oh,
the Civic Center
please.
in
Let me
the
get that
Purple Rain
photo.
tour, and I wasn't walked out, but it was the Purple Rain tour.
Yeah.
Sheila E. opened.
I remember.
And I had to body pack everything.
Yes.
And I controlled the search. I mean, I opened my coat with so much. I had my lenses in these big mittens because it's a winter concert,
Yep.
if you recall.
Yeah.
So I was able to control the search, and I was sort of sitting in the nosebleed section behind the stage. So I got a shot of him on the platform when he's doing his thing, laying underneath the purple blanket.
Yes,
And I think he saw me. He looked up, and if you look at the shot, how did he get in here with that? You know, and if you remember, he came on and did this encore after we were about everybody's walking out.
Gone, yeah.
And so I was able to get the best close-up. It wasn't a supreme close-up.
Right.
In fact, the best close-up I have of Prince is before the camera hysteria. I've been into him since the first recording.
Nice.
And myself and some friends went to see him in '81. There's a club I used to go to in New York on the Lower East Side called the Ritz Club on East 11th Street.
Yeah.
And so that was the era when Dirty Mind had come out and Controversy was about to come out. So that was the first band with Des Dickerson and Dr. Fink and Andre Simone.
Yeah, Andre.
But it was pre-camera hysteria Prince. So I had my Instamatic then. I didn't get my real camera. So I got some really nice close-ups of him in his raincoat. You know, he used to do the raincoat and then come out the raincoat and have on the little frilly stuff. And they were rocking. You know, I've always dug him since the first recording. But those are probably the best shots that I have of him. And now, as you know, his legal team just snatches up any and anything. You know, in fact, even if he's on national TV, if you ain't watching it live, it may be gone the next morning. You know, you can't even catch up to it.
Yeah.
But I've had other adventures, so I'm not going to belabor it. Now I'm pretty much situated with a lot of area promoters of the music, so it's pretty much I get permission. I really don't have it for all that hysteria too much anymore.
I mean, I love that you, because you're local and well known and in the area, that you're at everything.
Well, it comes as a result of a lot of folks tend to forget I do jazz radio. I've been a volunteer at the University of Hartford since 1976. So if y'all haven't caught up yet, I'm waiting for you. You know, I'm on Wednesdays 9 to midnight. And WWH, you know, we are a 24/7 volunteer-run station. But because we pump up and promote music of all genres, and particularly we have 27 hours of jazz, we are always talking about the scene locally and within the tri-state area. So we have made a lot of connections with these venues and folks. So folks will allow us, you know, at least me, to come in and shoot maybe just the first song. It's gotten really restrictive. Some concerts, it's really the first song, the first 3 songs.
Interesting.
And I don't want to jeopardize my relationship, so I respect that.
Absolutely.
You know, frankly, at that point, you know, if you're really paying attention, you can get enough material. And then just retreat to your seat and enjoy the music. You know, I mean, that's really what your focus should be anyway. I mean, I do multitask. But after a while, I used to watch some of my photo buddies. I said, you know, you guys are jeopardizing your relationships. Because my dear late wife used to tell me, you know, you left me so long. You know, why did you even invite me out? Okay, and I would
That's
watch,
your first love.
You know, right? You know, I mean, I would watch some of my photo buddies. They would just stay in the trench for the whole evening. It's like, you know, well, you're gonna hear it now when you get home.
Right.
So,
word of advice. You might want to.
So I was kind of like, yeah, that's cool. All right, 3 songs, fine. I'll retreat
But see,
back to
you
my
also
day.
thoroughly enjoy watching and listening.
Music is a healing experience.
Right,
I mean,
so
and
it's not.
there's so much that comes through this area. I really don't have to drive to New York as often, nor do I have the endurance. That return trip is not
It's
kind.
brutal, huh?
You know, I've had plenty of evenings the last couple of years where I just, you know, pull over to one of the road stops and
It's not right now.
incline and, you know, make sure the doors are locked and wake up, get a triple espresso and jet on in.
Right.
But we are so blessed in Hartford area and within a 50-mile radius as far as jazz, and not just jazz, you know, great artwork is all ongoing here, coming through here. So, yeah, I get around a lot because I'm not a TV person.
Right.
You know, I like live experience. I like getting out. And I'm very supportive of my peers.
Yes,
You know, I make sure, you know, you got a new show of a new body of work. I attempt to get there, or at least talk it up on my radio show, you know, in my community calendar of events.
Right.
You know, so yeah, you know, it's been enriching for me. You know, I'm like surprised that when I drop some of these ongoing type of scenarios on folks, and they act like, what? Who? They were here? Look in the Thursday calendar, you know.
Yeah, you're very connected. What I love about you too is that you're a master of names. You remember everyone's name, first, middle, last. You can recite the history.
I've had some
I can
moments,
learn so much from you.
Well, yeah, it's true, but
You've come
you know,
across so many greats, and you just rattle them off like.
well, I think the key is listening.
Yes.
You know, really listening to folk. You know, and being. It's not embarrassing to say repeat that. Repeat your name, because I have folk that if I don't see you often enough, it's like I'll just look you in the eye and we'll meet, embrace, and pray there's a clue that might pop up and say, who is this person? You know. Vibrationally, I know who they are.
Yeah, that's me. I'm the master of the essence. Like, I'll never forget that. Names, they slip me. It's all right, though.
Well, you know, and it helps because here again, doing jazz radio, you want to be informative.
Yes.
You know, so and I come from the era where, you know, liner notes were easier to read. And I've always been an avid reader. So, you know, album covers, I mean, the artwork would enthrall me. And you know, reading the whole bio on the artist and the writer of the liner notes attempt to describe the music as best as they could, you know. And so that's what has helped. And I think good diet and exercise and spilling wine with discretion has helped. So that I still got some neurons and synapses are still firing away. You know, and connecting, you know, instead of separating away.
Now, you're also very social. Now, I remember you used to have a lot of functions at your spot.
Yeah, when I had a bigger apartment, I used to have the after parties for Monique Jarvis's poetry slams.
Yep.
And even prior to that, when I got my first apartment on Main Street in Hartford, got a seated job in '78. Yeah, I'm moving out, Mommy and Daddy.
Yeah.
My daddy said, great. My mom said, you didn't warn us. It was all good, and I haven't looked back except, you know, to keep on embracing my moms, but, you know, independently so. But we had a big apartment, and me and my roommates, we would have these nice little bashes, yoga, you know, practice.
Some Scrabble.
Oh, yes.
A lot of Scrabble contests.
That's right.
Competition.
Vicious Scrabble play. 3-minute clock, everybody. Not that space out Scrabble where 2 days later, oh, I got a word. You would have got your 0 and, you know, we moved on to game 2 and 3. Because that's what you want, you know, a couple of games, you know, not an epic. You know, so we play with a 3-minute clock.
Nice.
And, you know, and that type of thing. And then, unfortunately, I'm not in as big an apartment, but then it was a period in the 90s when I lived on Fraser Place, and wow, we used to have these after parties for Monique's set, man.
Yes.
And it was great because I was meeting all these new, younger, artistic folks who really had their poetry skills together. I mean, really talented wordsmiths, and I'm really still in touch with a few of them. Some have moved on to other states. Not into their craft anymore, what have you. But yeah, I would enjoy inviting these folks after the slams. We'd eat, party, and then they say, Maurice, could you turn the music down? We're going to have a cipher. And I said, fine, because I had crazy tenant friends upstairs who love my music. So we could have congas going at 3 in the morning, and then these folks would start spitting fire.
Yes.
You know, and so I'm about joie de vivre, and you know, not so much into politics, but I'm into the politics of community living. You know, where we can share and include people in our activities in other ways. You know, breaking bread. Being supportive of each other's art activities, businesses, and so forth. I'm not so much, I do vote, don't get me wrong, but not so much that aspect of activism, but, you know, the people thing, which is very important. You know, returning calls at a timely manner, making referrals, you know, speaking up on folks' behalf. You know,
just polite.
Yeah, you know, it really stands out these days, doesn't it? You know, we ride through the streets of Hartford, boy, like it's the Grand Prix or something. What's going on with that? It's a red light you run into. So, you know, a little more cordiality goes a long way.
Right. Now, in your art, when you're photographing these, you know, you're at these concerts and you're getting these images, do you have any kind of social commentary going on, or any message sometimes that you want to convey?
The message is that I'm tempted to draw the viewer to, you know, the folks that are making this music.
Yes.
You know, some are standard bearers. You know, I've got the Miles Davises and the Betty Carters and Nancy Wilsons in my collection, and there's always a continuum of new artists, and so I'm always attempting in my way to bring these new faces to people's attention. So if there is a message, and that is the message, you know, look at this art form. You know, it is revered throughout the world, and it's incredible our ignorance here in the United States. And this is where this music originated, in New Orleans, up the Mississippi River into Chicago, and henceforth it's flowered out, and it's everywhere on the planet it's being taught. And you know, when I went to North Sea Jazz Festival, case in point, the people that were being revered, and if I drop those names here in conversation, folks are clueless. And I don't make any condemnation, but you know, the information is there if you care to investigate, and if you have some level of imagination. And I don't know how you teach people to investigate things, the willingness to spend time and energy to sift through, and you know, be open to other sounds and colors and textures. You know? So I don't know, maybe I'm just being here 300 lifetimes and if I'm
just getting it right, you got it
I'm
in there.
fortunate in this time,
trying to
you
give
know,
it back.
Wow, gee, look what we have here at our disposal with, I won't say minimal effort, but like I say, it's impressive who continues to come through here all the time.
Even in the summer when we have the Jazz Festival, the names are...
I can thank Paul Brown. I'm volunteer with the Jazz Society, and we took on the responsibility of producing the Monday Night Jazz series in 2008. But the prior history, Mr. Brown, noted bassist, educator, he hustled. And he started that Monday Night Jazz series in 1967. And a lot of folks, you know, aren't aware of that. It's the oldest ongoing free outdoor concert series. And not to be confused with the Greater Hartford Festival of Jazz, which is the 3-day festival, a whole other nonprofit. And that started about 21, 22 years ago. And that's strictly the 3 days in July.
I know that they're
But the Monday Night Jazz Festival, it's got a very rich history. I mean, significant artists like Charles Mingus, courtesy of Mr. Brown's effort, came through here. Dexter Gordon with Jackie McLean in Bushnell Park, free. Pharaoh Sanders, Hugh Masekela was here. It goes on and on. Sam Jones, noted bassist, played with Cannonball Adderley. Cannonball Adderley, I'm told, before I even got even aware, was through here, you know, and
so it's a rich history.
And so to say,
and it's free. It's amazing.
And that too has given me an opportunities to get up next to musicians and get great photos, and you know, so we have a lot of stuff to be thankful for in this area as far as the arts and culture.
And so you brought for us some of your artwork. I would love for you to go through each one and maybe give a context of the shot and what really moves you in the shot.
Okay.
Come over there with you. We'll go through each one.
And by the way, he's a fellow Aryan like yourself. This is Omar Sosa. He just, I think, turned 50 or close to 50. He's a phenomenal pianist by way of Cuba. And I've seen him at least 4 or 5 times in the last 10 years. Real Artways brought him here in 2004. And I interviewed him twice. So this was shot at the Blue Note in April or May of 2013. He was on 2014, last year actually. He was on tour. So I interviewed him and I was able to talk my way into getting some press passes and the opportunity to photograph him at that legendary jazz club in the Village in New York. And he mixes all kind of elements. And I believe he's also a Yoruba priest as well. So it's a very spiritual experience. He plays both acoustic and electric piano, and he has a great band. He has this African bassist, Childo Tomas, and he had, I think, Ernesto Simpson that night on drums, and I forget who the saxophonist flautist was, but it's a very uplifting experience. I mean, you know, you just like, your spirits are raised. You know, and I think it's like the kind of energy after the concert. I think I was able to drive all the way home back to Hartford without having to stop because I was that elevated. You know, so before we moved from here, here's the legendary Carlos Santana. You know, and this was
That's a great shot.
Thank you.
Detail,
that was, I was lucky. That was at the Oakdale, which now it has so many names, corporate, and it's no longer the circle and the round concept. This was 2005 Father's Day weekend, and I was again in one of those situations. Well, let me see how far I'll get, and I was able to sneak my camera in because I had no affiliation with any of the promotional booking people, none of that. I was just going to see what would happen. And it was a friendly crew, so I was able to shoot from my seat, and I was able to get that shot of Carlos. And I love his music. He plays everything well. Since I guess high school, his first recording came out, I've been into his music and all the different transitions. And there was a period in the 70s where he was doing more jazz-influenced stuff. He was in Dillon Stadium in '73 with Tower of Power.
Oh, wow.
Yes, Tower of Power, What Is Hip was all over the airwaves. And he had just made a spiritual transformation to Davidip. He was a practitioner more of meditation and Eastern philosophy. He was a disciple of Sri Chinmoy. So he came out dressed in white, asked for a moment of silence. Then they proceeded to take us to another level. We had Leon Thomas, the late vocalist, who was known in jazz circles with Pharoah Sanders. He was singing with them. They had just got back from Japan, and I have the recording live in Japan. And you know, so you could hear all these jazz elements as well as, you know, kicking grooves. He had the late Douglas Rauch on bass, who was an incredible electric bassist who left too soon. And so I've always been an admirer of his music. So this was 2005, and it was more into a Latin rock thing. In fact, his son was playing with him that afternoon, and I think Los Lonely Boys Open, which is a phenomenal, like Latin rock kind of group as well. And as I mentioned prior to our interview, Cindy Blackman, the noted drummer who grew up in Hartford, is now Cindy Blackman Santana. You know, so I can't wait till they do a full project. She's on his most recent recording, Corazon, which has Wayne Shorter. He and Wayne Shorter make great music going back to the 70s. So yeah, that's Mr. Santana. Thank you. Nice tones, and that was shot with film. And well, this is from my new digital camera. You know, so you know. Film and digital, you know, it's like, depending on who processes it, you can't tell the difference, you know. Now, this is a fine tenor player. This is J.D. Allen. As I stated earlier, I'm a volunteer with the Hartford Jazz Society, and he was our feature for our recent fall concert. We do 6 concerts when we get the funding in the summer, which are free, and then we attempt to get people to actually pay for some of our events. So we have a spring concert and a fall concert, And he was our fall feature. And J.D. Allen's by way of Detroit. He is a phenomenal tenor player. He has a very warm, full, robust sound.
Yeah.
And can play like Coltrane-like, you know, cascading sounds, and then he can get romantic. He played a version of Star Eyes, was that? Stardust that night. It just stopped everything. You thought you were listening to like a Lester Young or a Sonny Rollins,
Yeah.
the way it just moved you, you know, talked to you. And interesting in his trio, a phenomenal young drummer who grew up here in Hartford, who's now playing with all the greats, Jonathan Barber. This man is not even 24, 25.
Wow.
And he's,
Yeah.
you know, he's like a young Tony Williams, like when Miles' quintet in the 60s had Tony Williams, and who was 22 and kicking
Yes,
with
yes,
Miles. That's the flavor that Jonathan Barber brings to this man's music. But yeah, that's again one of my new digital. And
Now, how far away were you?
well, I
shooting
use
this?
the
Is
big.
this-
Well, I use my big lens. I like to isolate. I do weird
Right.
stuff. You know, I like to get all up in folks' grill.
Yeah.
I like shooting at different angles. I like abstracting, playing with shutter
Yes.
speeds to elongate stuff. But
beautiful.
I just put the big 300mm and put it right up in them.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen
Yeah.
some.
I mean, you can see the little
Everything.
everything in his face.
Yeah, you know, him emoting.
You need to exfoliate.
Yeah, right. You know, you can. But another thing is that I bought a photo printer. So this is actually,
okay.
these two are actually prints that I'm printing now. My 21st Century Darkroom is in effect
Okay.
now. It's an expensive proposition, but
Right.
I want to be more on top of my creative process. I have some old school darkroom skills,
Right.
and now I've moved on into the 21st
I
century
mean, that's
approach.
like Prince, right? You know, written, produced,
Yeah.
and do it
Yeah,
all.
well, yeah, we have to be
Yes.
self-sufficient.
Yes.
And
As
so
artists.
I'm learning now how to, work with my files and bring the most out of them. And
Right.
this is just the beginning, because these are just
I
the
love the
basic-
richness of the
Mhm.
black.
Oh,
It's
black
very
and white.
rich.
Oh yeah, black and
Very
white is
rich.
so intimate. I mean, color is great, but sometimes it has a way of distracting, and black and
Right.
white just communicates.
It's right in there, right? The message
mood.
of that. What's
Mhm.
he? Yeah, he's in there.
Mhm.
Eyes closed. He's all.
Yeah, only thing missing is little smoke rings. Like,
Right,
I'm a
right.
big admirer of the older photographer Herman Leonard. He used to shoot these folks in the 40s, and you'd see these classic shots, say Dexter Gordon or Billie Holiday, and
Oh, my
cigarette in
goodness.
their arm,
Yes, yes.
cigarette smoke
Yeah,
wafting.
slowly.
So it's that kind of mood. So yeah, thank you. And this is the legendary Nancy Wilson, who has in semi-retirement. This was a shot done at the Jackie Robinson Afternoon of Jazz. That was a great jazz fundraiser they used to host. First down the grounds of the Jackie Robinson estate, and then they moved to Cranberry Park in Norwalk. So at this period, I was with Tom Harris, who founded New England Jazz News for 5 years.
Oh, yes.
Tom Harris, myself, and for a moment, Chuck Opachowski, one of my radio buddies at UH, had this newspaper going, and
Yeah.
it was just me and Tom. So for 5 years, we were attempting to cover the New England states, and that period afforded me, I was able to get a lot of great shots because I was actually pressed now.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, the credentials.
and so at the Jackie Robinson Afternoon of Jazz, not only am I on stage, I'm backstage too, and Max Roach and Billy Taylor.
I love the expression on her.
Oh, and she just
I mean,
looks
she looks
great.
right. She
Mhm.
looks phenomenal. Very poised, just confident.
So, and looking wonderful, I might say.
Yes, yes.
So she's
Robust.
now, yeah, Miss Wilson,
Beautiful.
And so that I might have printed this in the darkroom. I'm not sure, but
Okay.
anyway, this is from about '96, between '96 and '98, because it was
Right.
between '93 to '98 we had our newspaper going.
Yeah.
And we had a great
Remember that
relationship with some.
newspaper,
Yeah, just hustle.
You made. I
get
was like,
ads.
oh God.
I'd go to Scullers and Regatta Bar like a couple times a month because they would advertise with
Right.
us. And what was hip was that, with Scullers, they were so hospitable with us. So instead of outrightly paying, say it was a $300 ad, it was just say, you have a $300 account.
Right.
Come and eat and drink your $300 up and bring folk.
Very
So
nice.
I would be up and down
Right.
the Boston area like 2 or 3 times a month, depending on who it was. And I was able to see people like Eartha Kitt, of
Oh,
course,
nice,
her,
yes.
Kenny Garrett, Jimmy McGriff, be there New Year's Eve. It was just
See, you
insane.
have a passion and love for the art itself, and then you bring the art to it. So you have
Thank you.
very
Thank you.
well rounded.
And then this is the legendary Hugh Masekela, our man from South Africa, who I've been enjoying since Grazing in Grass. I was in high school, and Grazing in Grass was a hit, you know, and beyond that, he's made so much incredible music, you know. Forget the radio stuff, all his albums, and plus his posture and stance, you know. Before apartheid, he was here, you know, exile, political exile, pretty much. And yet speaking and rallying folks about dealing with those issues, those political issues. And so this was shot in October. He was in performance at the New Infinity Hall in Hartford on Front Street, part of what is called the 20 Years of Freedom Tour with the guitarist Vusi Malasela. And so great music, if you love that township flavor. And this man is still swinging. He is now quietly 76.
Oh, wow.
And I interviewed him early 2014 or 2013, and he said, I'm still practicing every day.
Nice.
And you can hear it.
Those are artists. That is it.
But the tones were rich, you know, because the flugelhorn is no joke. It's a little bigger than the trumpet, but it's a very warm sound, and in the right hands, it's kicking what he's doing.
Look at him. You see the veins and the...
And he's still dancing a little bit.
All in
You
there.
know, he's a little more rotund,
Right.
but he's still getting down,
Right.
you know, and
Still got
Vusi
it.
on guitar and the band. So they were rocking. And then in between the songs, they were talking about what has happened post-apartheid.
Right,
Still
right.
challenges, but
Nice,
you know,
yes.
moving
Give a
forward,
little,
you know, moving forward, South Africa.
Beautiful.
But you know,
I love the blue in this. Though.
Oh well, you
Instead
know,
of
dealing
so
with the
bright,
stage
oh my
lighting.
goodness. Yeah, that's
and that's
beautiful.
what I attempt to do is work with the lighting as is.
Yeah.
Flash will help you document an event, but it will also get you in trouble in most venues.
Yes,
You know,
right.
so hopefully you have a
found
camera
out.
that will allow you the settings to deal with stage lighting. And I find a lot of stage lighting is really enough anyway if you know your aperture and shutter setting. See, I'm from the old school. A lot of folks get these digital cameras that set on automatic.
Yes.
They don't read the manual.
Yes, that's
and,
me. Okay.
And so the shots,
School me.
the shots are well executed, but you'll find you all look the same
They
after
all
a
look the
while.
same.
You know,
I
so
know.
you take that flash off, start playing with those shutter speeds and so forth, and you get another dimension.
Right. That's
You
the
know.
art. That's the art
Oh
behind
yes,
manipulating light.
Mhm.
I do it with paint. That's manipulating
You got
light.
it. That's right.
But
All them textures.
yes.
But yeah, that's Mr. Masekela.
Beautiful body of work. Thank you
You're
for
welcome.
showing that. And you are just music history. You got to be we have to have a book from you.
Well, that's the
A
next
music
phase,
historian.
getting the finances and focusing my time. I've got
Right.
a lot of stuff that I'm losing track of because I won't spend the time. The newer stuff, the digital, is easier to load up and date. But I have a tremendous task up ahead that every winter I say I'm going to get to, and then I keep hanging out like it's summer.
Yeah.
And then now it's spring and I'm into gardening,
to
so
it.
it's time to break the soil.
Right.
And, oh, it's now June and July. It's time to go to the beach. So I have to pay more attention to bringing some of these gems out. A case in point, there's a potential project around Romar Bearden, because the Hart Public Library now has 2 huge Beardens that they have acquired that will be housed there for the time being. One's a music-oriented one, and another one is a different subject matter. And so there might be opportunity to present some of what I have of Bearden. I actually saw him in Hartford. He came to Hartford in '88 to the Wadsworth, and he and Jackie McLean collaborated in a very interesting way in the Etna Theater, where Mr. McLean played piano while Mr. Bearden painted.
Painting him. Oh, that's so beautiful.
And I have shots of that afternoon. So they might have a role in this potential production.
Right.
So it
Oh,
would behoove me to find them.
Yes, yes, yes.
Scan them and
Through,
see
right,
where they
make sure.
could play a role, you know,
Blow
maybe
the
as
dust
backdrop
off.
or whatever
Something,
reason, you
that
know,
would be
but
great.
there are like so many gems that I have forgotten that I even have, you know, plus a lot of chafe, you know, that, you know,
Right.
time for you to just toss this stuff,
Right,
you know,
I know, I'm
period,
sure you
know.
have.
The art of
Oh.
artful hoarding.
Where do you store everything?
Well, I am blessed that I've live alone,
Right.
and it's a 2-bedroom apartment, and I had
Okay.
to concede one of the bedrooms
Right.
to sort of organize mess.
Right. Yeah, organized chaos. I
You
call
know,
it.
but
Nice.
the other rooms, I do my open studios and open houses
Yes.
out of my apartment. I turned my apartment into basically a photo gallery.
Yeah.
So I've been taking part in the City Hartford's
Yeah.
has this ongoing open studio weekend, and so I got tired of lugging my stuff to
Yes.
the Colts building or
Yes.
here and there, wherever. So I
I mean, we
decided-
see you everywhere, so, but you know, it's all good.
But it's economy of
It's nice
motion.
that people come to you.
Right, that's it. And I'm right around the corner from Artpeace, which is right
Mm-hmm.
over on Asylum. I'm right up the hill from the train station, so I've become like part of the circuit, you
Yes.
know. And it's really blown up. This past one, there are probably 60 to 80 sites.
I
throughout
know,
the
I
city.
saw the map and I was like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm from the old Colt days when
Right.
it first started, like 10 people,
Right,
you know, and they all come into the Colt building.
And the folder fit into a
Exactly.
little envelope. Now I had to pay on.
It's a book.
This is gonna cost me to
It's
send.
beautiful. It's beautiful. It's
So,
beautiful.
but for economy of motion, I
Yeah.
just said, let me start doing it out of my apartment, and
Right.
so, and plus, you know,
Now, as far as you know, 2015, the technology, as far as social media, how do you market yourself or promote yourself?
well, I'm a scribe, so I use my Facebook particularly for artistic endeavors, music endeavors. I'm not so much into all the other stuff.
Yeah.
To each his own.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, but pick up the phone if you want to call me. I'm not gonna look for it on your bulletin board.
Nice.
Pick up the phone. You got my email address. I ain't gonna spend all day. That's a second job. That
Yes,
is
that's
not
too much.
my focus. But I use that, and like I say, I'm old school. I'll create a great blast and put it
Mm-hmm.
to all my folks in my address book.
Do you
And-
have a website?
Well, Facebook for
And
now
Facebook
is
for
my.
now. Okay,
you
that's
know,
your
I keep-
main
yeah,
circuit.
Yeah,
Okay,
for
good.
now.
That's good. I'll have
Yeah,
that
I
on there.
Hundreds of photo albums up, current music stuff, and I shoot nature avidly. And on the subject of that, I'm currently in 2 shows.
Yes.
I had an opening last night, Thursday the 8th, at 226 Jazz Art Java with the noted area jazz painter Andre Chaparro.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, well, this is our second time doing duo shows
Really?
together. 2013, we opened
Yes, with all
the
his jazz
year.
paintings.
Well,
and
it's a great mix, and he challenges me with, you know, his work and vice versa, and our love for this art form. So we opened last night at 226 Jazz Art Java, which is a cute jazz performance space
oh, wow.
/ coffee house in downtown Windsor, 226 Broad Street. And so our
How
work-
long is the show on for?
until the 14th of February. So
Okay.
last night was just the opening. We had 25 to 30 people stop in. Heard there was a few inquiries, so we'll
Right.
see.
Yes.
And I'm also in the Hartford Public Library's a group show. Myself and 3 other photographers, a painter and a weaver, have been documenting the Baby Grand Jazz series. You know, that's a series, and here again, that might come to a surprise to some folk. It's quietly going into its 11th or 12th year.
Right.
In fact, your dear friend Amy Saylor started in
Yes.
2004.
Oh, wonderful.
And so we have a group show of photos and drawings documenting artists who have played in that series. So this Sunday, the 11th, right after the concerts are 3 to 4. At 4 o'clock on the
Right.
second floor, we'll have a reception all open to the public. As you know, the library's free.
Right,
So
right.
bring your family friendly, you know, and the work there will be up for the whole run of the Baby Grand Jazz series, which is a phenomenal series. For those who haven't yet to come,
Right.
Bring your family and come early, because folks are like getting there between 1 and 2. So you may not find seats around the bandstand in the atrium. You might be up around the balcony area, because it's really become the thing to do.
Standing room only.
And so they opened last Sunday, I should say, with Eli Yamin. This Sunday at 3 o'clock will be a fine young Connecticut-based trumpeter, Nick DiMaria. And then it goes on through the months to the end of April. They only take a break for Easter weekend. And phenomenal musicians.
Beautiful.
And they've gotten a blessing from the Kaman Aerospace Corporation. They've been funding this for about 5 years. A dear late friend of mine, Stephen Johnson, a pianist, he grew up with Beanie Kaman, and he was able to get them to subsidize the Baby Grand Jazz series. And so, unfortunately, Steve is no longer with us. There's a photo of him in the show. He died too soon.
Yeah.
But that series now is able to bring not only just solo pianists, ensembles, and they bring some incredible artists. And here again, free. And so if you have the interest, I would just say stop in and, check it all out. And after the Nick DiMaria concert on the 18th, there's a wonderful Asian pianist who I've seen several occasions, Iri Yamamoto. So all that to say, just come on by on Sunday, see the work, and that gallery scene at the library it's just growing.
It is
not
growing.
on the
It's
second
beautiful
floor,
space too.
the third floor you have Janetta Miller's crew of fabric workers, jazz-inspired work. Wanda Selden, who's part of our group show, is now making jewelry. Along with her fabric work, she has some new jewelry that she's created that's on exhibition. And the other photographers that are joining me for the Baby Grand Jazz historical depiction, we have Ray Shaw, I believe, Joseph Chandler, Byron Dean, and the painter Daryl Oates, and Wanda Selden.
Daryl Oates.
Well, yeah, come and see his jazz drawings. He'll sit at the concert and draw the concert and band. You know, I've seen that done in New York. There's a big festival called Vision Fest, and there's this guy. He just sits in front of these great artists, and they allow him to hang his work. So and it's a week-long festival. So by the end of the week, the whole hall is filled with his work, and it's very free form and
quick,
abstract.
Because you're doing it live, so it's
abstract, but you can see the instruments,
the expression of it. I'm sure it's beautiful.
And he's done album covers. It's worked that way.
Now, do you find it challenging to submit into shows, or no shows that you can submit to?
Well, I've been rejected,
that's all.
But last couple of years, I've been, appearing in other contexts that, 10, 15 years ago, my stuff was being rejected, So I have to push myself to do things more out of state,
Okay.
But this year is starting off auspiciously, so I'm literally in 2 exhibitions, and I've been told that there's some other folks interested in me exhibiting in their venues. And then at the end of 2015, myself and Andreas will be doing a duo show at the Windsor Arts Center, which is just down the street from 226 Jazz. So, Windsor quietly has this little bohemian
I hear it's kind of moving. Amy told me about some stuff in Windsor.
It's true.
It's growing.
The Windsor Arts Center has had some significant shows there, as well as live music as well. And also the train depot is now art studios, and folks are doing some wonderful stuff with their spaces. In fact, Andres Chaparro has his space there. I believe later on this month he'll be doing an open house, I think the 24th of January. And I'll be in Art Walk, the 3rd floor gallery at the library in 2016.
So you're busy.
Yes, and it's a good busy.
It's a great busy.
You know.
If you were to leave, the people on one thing about you, what would that be?
Consistent demonstration of love, baby.
Nice.
And I don't mean just romantic.
Right,
I mean showing up,
support,
ready to work.
Yes.
Listening, making recommendations. I mean, just sharing honesty and truth.
Right.
You know,
So much to learn from you. I mean, just even about that unity. I mean, it exudes out of you. Like you really, really are. I mean, I've always felt like in your home, just very welcome, and it's just beautiful. And then to hear you talk about that, like we need that in our, the artist community and society, and
because it's
general.
cutthroat out here.
It really is.
And we all need
really,
to make
really
a dollar,
is.
but there's a way of going about it. And believe me, some folks, they cut off their nose and spite their face for the immediate gain. You don't think long term. And reputation goes a long way.
Burning bridges and everything else.
This is a small town.
It is.
And for a lot of folks who
everybody know it.
And for folks who don't want to get the full story, if you don't put your best foot forward, they run with that and don't think circumspectively. Well, man's got a better history, but well, he showed us, you know what?
Right.
When I met him, maybe he had a bad day. Well, I don't
matter.
know.
I ain't giving him a chance.
And there's other folks who are very spiteful, very deserving of, getting their legs cut from underneath them.
But consistency does, pay.
Yeah, true. And holding the door open for other folks and sharing.
Right.
I mean, I'm not of that school where I don't return calls. I just, do what I can with my resources.
Right. I love that. Well, it's definitely been an honor to have you on here, just to hear.
That was going by that fast.
It
I was
has
worried
gone.
that I'd be boring.
Please, oh my goodness! I mean, you just got it, anyways. You got the hip thing going. I just love, talking with you. But wow. So for me,
And that's how I met you. I came to one of your shows, the Parker Brothers. And I went to school with Warren and Eddie. Warren's a little older, and I think Eddie's a little older.
So many years ago.
But that's how I met you, over there
yes.
in West Hartford on South Main Street. You were in a little gallery setting.
Yes.
That's how I was introduced to your work.
Yes,
You see, that's what I mean. I'm always coming out.
And now, and that whole scene, that was they were very nurturing and helpful, and getting me kind of out there, spreading my wings, but. Yeah.
So that's how it works. It's like dropping a pedal in a wave.
Yeah. And then, of course, Amy. Our music Amy.
And she just had a birthday.
Yes.
See, I'm good.
So wonderful. So thank you so much for coming on. But my biggest takeaway from this is just your wealth of knowledge. And that's why I'm like, okay, he's a photographer, but music historian is really more a fitting title.
And not just jazz,
Right.
I check it all out.
Yeah.
I mean, my boys in living color. I mean, I've been listening to Doug Wimbish since the 70s, and I'm now friends with the whole band, I've interviewed some of them. And for those who want to catch up to me, Facebook, Maurice D. Robertson is about the easiest.
I'll make sure I put the title on there.
Catch up to me. Just message me, and I'll get back immediately.
Right.
And that's an opportunity to see my ongoing work, because I'm always putting up not only new music work, but nature. I'm a big, always hiking and going to different scenes, and as it goes. And that's a source of serenity for me to just get away from the madding crowd.
Right. So beautiful. I'll make sure that people have a way to, look at your work and see you.
And do stop by those galleries.
Yes.
226 Jazz, in fact, has live music on Saturdays. So just go to their website, jazzartjava.com for their schedule. But thank you for this opportunity.
Yes, please. Thank you so much.
And continued successes with you. And keep that twinkle.
Thank you. This has been Artistic Expressions. Me, Michelle Thomas. With me was Maurice, and phenomenal photographer, and as I like to now think, a music historian. So stay tuned for further episodes. Hopefully you enjoyed this, and thank you so much for watching. Remember to always support the arts and your local artists.
Hold your head up. Don't give up. You are black gold. You are. You are. Black gold. Black gold. Black gold. Black gold.
Hi, I'm Maurice Robertson, area photographer. I'd like to thank Artistic Expressions for allowing me to be on this show, and I support the arts.
Shoutouts to Artistic Expressions, and I support the arts. This is El Bix Sean Rossi.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Wilson. I'm an aspiring musician and ballet dancer. Shout out to Artistic Expressions, and I support the arts.